Now, the next thing we want to take a look at is our patch definitions. Within our patch management tool, it is very important that we have the ability to constantly bring down whatever new definitions that are coming into the system. And it's not really on it's not in a constant fashion, but more at least once a day we want to make sure that these definitions are being brought down. Now, when I come here to Tools, Security and Compliance, and I drop down here down into Patch and Compliance, within this particular module here, this is where we can see the definitions that have been brought down. Now, Ivanti, we release these definitions again on a daily basis, and so we want to be able to develop a task that we can pick up these new definitions on a daily basis. Now, to do that, we're going to click here into the Downloads dialog box here. We're going to come in and we're going to select the content that we want, and we're going to come in and we're going to select that we want to create that into a scheduled task. When we do that, we end up with a scheduled task that is intended for our downloading of the content that we have selected here. And when I get back here, back into my scheduled tasks, the task that I've created here on my core server, and I put it down here in this core maintenance folder. Now, this isn't here by default. This is something that I created specifically for this discussion. But in here, I have this task here, which is my patch download task. This is designed to go out on a daily basis and to be able to run every day at 3 a.m. and to be able to pull down that new content. And as you can see here, you can see the date that it ran, or actually the last date that it ran was today, and it's going to run tomorrow now at 3 a.m. I also have another task in here. It's called my patch history task. Now, this is a task that's created through what we call the Gather Historical Information area. Here within the console, I have this Gather Historical Information. And again, in here, there's a button where I can create a task around this particular element. Now, this Gather Historical Information starts to normalize all of our scanning and remediation information. And it starts to build these graphs and charts. It allows us to go in and remediate all of this and to have all of this graphs and this dashboard here that's describing to us what's happening here within the patch management. And that's all being built there with that task, which I call my patch history task. And I have that task running on a daily basis at 4 a.m. Now, this is one of the real beauties of the Ivanti Endpoint Manager. And that's this ability to create these scheduled tasks that we can allow them to automate our processes. Again, by going in and creating this scheduled task for the patch download, I don't have to worry about the content being brought down. This task is taking care of it for me on a daily basis. I just have to come in and verify and make sure that it's running properly. But again, what am I doing at 3 a.m.? Hopefully my eyes are closed and I'm sleeping. But again, this thing's going to be out there pulling the content down for me automatically, and then I can go in and I can review the content that's been brought down. But that's the real beauty here of scheduled tasks. And really, everything here within the Endpoint Manager tool is really being driven through scheduled tasks. That's what you'll see here within the tool, is everything's really driven with scheduled tasks. So this is part of that automation. And as an administrator, we need to create tasks like this that again will allow us to maintain the system, to keep the system up to date. And then we also have what we refer to as our patch approval process. In this patch approval process, we're going to use a tool that is referred to as our rollout projects. So if I get back to my modules, as the content is coming down, we can run an inventory or a vulnerability scan. Once we've ran that vulnerability scan, it's going to let us identify of the definitions that's been brought down, which ones have been detected. And then once we have those detected items, we can drive that through what we call a rollout project. Here with the rollout project, this is going to let us automate our testing so that patches can be tested in an automated fashion. And if they pass our testing, we can then move them over into an approved group of patches. Now, having that approved group of patches, we can then apply those to our client machines, and we can constantly keep those machines patched up to our approved level of patches. And this is where automation within the system really comes. Again, automating the download of the definitions here within the scheduled tasks. I've got the automated downloading, and then through the rollout projects, we can go in and we can automate the testing process. But again, we really only want to test against the definitions that we have detected. If we've detected them on our machines that they need to be applied, then we want to run those through the testing process, and whichever ones pass our testing, then they're going to go on to they're going to go into a approved list of patches that we can then apply to the rest of our machines. I can go in again with my scheduled tasks, and I have a task in here that will then take that approved list of patches, and on this particular task here, it's going to run on a monthly basis. I have it going in and running once a month, and basically 10 days after Patch Tuesday, this thing's going to kick off once a month, and it's going to go in and apply my approved list of patches. So again, here's another piece of the automation. I have it automated that once these patches have been approved, that once a month, this task is going to go out and it's going to apply the patches that need to be applied. Only the patches that have been detected on my managed devices. So with these tasks here, I've got the automation of my download. I have the automating of the graphs and charts. I have the automation of my deployment. And with rollout projects, I can go in and I can automate the testing process of that patch management. So all of these here are, again, part of the process of going in and working here within the patch management. Now, as an administrator, one of the other tasks that we need to run here in the patch and compliance area is going in and disabling things like rules that are definitions that have been superseded, or are definitions that have been partially superseded. We want to go in and we want to disable those rules that have been superseded, that another rule has replaced it as a more current rule. And so the ones that have been superseded, we can go in and we can disable those. We do that by coming in and selecting a group of these definitions here, and coming up and clicking here on this icon, the second to the last icon, which will then let us run a task that will go in and disable these particular definitions. Again, with the partially replaced, it's just going to go in and disable the definitions that have been superseded. And if we want to see that, we can get into the definition itself. We can see which ones have been superseded, and again, which ones have not. So this one only has a single rule that's still valid. All the rest of the rules here have been superseded, and as I go in and disable those, again, we'll see that those some of those definitions have been fully, or that they've been partially superseded. Now, I can also search for these. If I get back up here to the scan group, and the scan group is the area that these are the definitions that we're going to be running scans against. And if I come in here and I search for the term some, in the column that is rules disabled, which is right there, what I'll see here is I see that I've got definitions here that, again, some of the rules have been disabled. And when I get into these particular definitions, we can see that on this one here, one of the rules had been superseded. It has now been disabled. One of the rules has not been superseded. It's still a valid rule. We'll still be scanning against that detection rule there. So these are the kind of things that, again, an administrator will do to be able to go in and clean up some of our patch content here so that our vulnerability scans are going to run more efficiently in the way that we're driving that. So again, these are some of the elements that we're going to see here in that patch approval process.